If Belfast is coming up on your British and Irish cruise itinerary, this is one port where a bit of planning makes a huge difference. Belfast isn't difficult, but it's not a wander off the ship kind of place either. And choosing what you're most interested in before you arrive will completely shape how good your day feels. In this video, I'll walk you through how Belfast Cruise Port works, what catches people out, and how to plan the day based on my experience. The first thing you need to know is that cruise ships dock at the Belfast Cruise Terminal, and there's no tendering here. But the Belfast Cruise Terminal is in an industrial area, quite away from the city centre. It means that you're not stepping off the ship and wandering into historic streets or cafes, and walking simply isn't realistic. You'll need to factor in transport from the start, whether that's the cruise shuttle, a taxi, or Uber. The terminal itself is modern and efficient, with toilets and free Wi-Fi, but the key thing to understand is that Belfast is a port where transport is part of the plan from the moment you step ashore. This is the single most important thing to get right in Belfast. To make the most of Belfast, it's best to decide in advance what you want to do. Broadly, you're choosing between three types of day: a city-based day, focused on Titanic and Belfast itself, a deeper dive into the city's political and social history, or leaving the city altogether to see Northern Ireland's scenery, including the Antrim coast and places like the Giant's Causeway. You can mix elements of these into one day, but only if you're realistic and plan ahead. For many people on a cruise, the most popular place to visit in Belfast is Titanic Belfast. But it's worth knowing that this isn't just a museum about a ship, it's also very much about Belfast itself. The Titanic story is inseparable from the shipyards here, and that really hits home when you're standing outside and can see the huge yellow Samson and Goliath cranes towering over the site. Inside the museum, it's not just the design and sinking of the ship that stays with you. One of the most sobering moments is seeing the names of those who lost their lives displayed on the walls. It puts a very human face on a story people think they already know, and it's a moment that makes many visitors pause and take it all in quietly. In practical terms, Titanic Belfast is busy full stop, not just on cruise days. It's one of Northern Ireland's most popular attractions year-round, so pre-booking is essential. You'll want to allow at least 90 minutes, and realistically closer to 2 hours if you don't want to rush. This is not somewhere you want to squeeze in between other plans. You can combine Titanic with seeing more of Belfast, and it is possible to walk from Titanic Belfast into the city centre, and it usually takes around 20 to 30 minutes at a steady pace. The route is flat and well paved, mainly through the Titanic Quarter and along the river, but it's not particularly scenic for most of the way. Because of that, many people prefer to take a short taxi or Uber into the city centre, which usually takes around 10 minutes. Once you're back in the city centre, it works well to focus on the area around City Hall. You can see the exterior of Belfast City Hall itself, walk through the surrounding gardens, wander along nearby streets for shops and cafes. If you like markets, St George's Market is a good option when it's open. For something more cultural, the Ulster Museum is free and well done, and it pairs nicely with a walk around the Botanic Gardens if the weather's decent. Another option in Belfast is to learn about its history. And Belfast's recent history is a huge part of what makes the city what it is today. And this is one area where context really matters. One of the best ways to understand that history is through the famous black cab tours. These take you through areas like the Falls and Shankill roads, past the political murals, and along the Peace Wall, with commentary from local guides who either lived through the Troubles themselves or grew up directly affected by it. What makes these tours so powerful is that they don't just talk about the past. They explain how the city has changed, what life is like today, and how communities are still shaped by what happened here. It's respectful, often sobering, and incredibly informative. One thing that often gets overlooked is that Belfast itself is only part of the story. Belfast is really a gateway into Northern Ireland, and once you leave the city, the landscape changes quickly. Coastal roads, small harbours, castle ruins, and wide-open scenery make this feel very different from other ports on a British and Irish itinerary. Some of these places may look familiar as well, as parts of Northern Ireland were used as filming locations for Game of Thrones. But even without that connection, the scenery stands on its own. If you enjoy dramatic scenery and seeing places you wouldn't easily reach independently, this is where Belfast really starts to stand out. If you're thinking about visiting Giant's Causeway, it's important to understand that this isn't a short trip from the port. The Giant's Causeway is around 90 minutes each way from Belfast, by road, depending on traffic, which makes this a full-day commitment rather than something you casually add on. But what you get in return is far more than just one attraction. The drive itself is a huge part of the experience. You see a lot of Northern Ireland along the way: small towns, rolling countryside, rugged coastline, and dramatic clifftop scenery. For many people, that journey is a real surprise, especially if they weren't expecting Northern Ireland to be quite so beautiful. And when you get to Giant's Causeway, you're right down at sea level, walking across thousands of hexagonal basalt stones formed by volcanic activity. You can step out onto the rocks, follow the coastal path, and explore it at your own pace. The stones are uneven and can be slippery, especially if it's wet, so decent footwear really matters here. Access to the causeway itself is free, but the visitor centre charges separately. You can walk down to the stones, but there is also a shuttle bus running between the visitor centre and the causeway itself. Quite a few people walk down and then get the bus back up, as the climb back is steep. If you want to see a lot in one day without managing the logistics yourself, a full-day local tour is one of the most efficient ways to do Belfast and Northern Ireland. I've popped a link in the description of the one I did. A typical day can include stops at Carrickfergus Castle, followed by a scenic drive along the glens of Antrim, passing through small villages and coastal scenery, and visit places like Carnlough Harbour and Ballintoy Harbour, both of which are also known for their Game of Thrones filming connections. Most tours then head to viewpoints near the Carrick-a-Reed Rope Bridge, before stopping at Dunseverick Castle and spending time at the Giant's Causeway itself. On the return journey, it's common to stop at a viewpoint overlooking Dunluce Castle and finish with a visit to the Dark Hedges before heading back towards Belfast. Some tours are also structured to include a drive through the city's political areas on the way back, and can finish by dropping you at Titanic Belfast, which works well if you've pre-booked tickets and want to combine the wider Northern Ireland scenery with time in the city. It's a long day, but it's one of the easiest ways to see both Northern Ireland and Belfast without trying to stitch lots of separate plans together. Belfast's weather matters more than people expect. Even on a clear, sunny day, it can feel cold, especially once you're out along the coast, and wind or rain can move in quickly at any time of year. This isn't a port where you can easily pop back to the ship for a jumper or a coat, so it's worth being prepared. And finally, Belfast is a full, proper port day. Whether you stay in the city or head out into Northern Ireland, you'll spend most of the day off the ship and cover a fair bit of ground. There's a lot to see here, and if you go in expecting a long day, Belfast is one of those ports where the time feels well spent. If Dublin is also on your itinerary, that brings a different set of challenges again, including tendering, and my full Dublin cruise port guide is on screen now.